Audio Imperia released their new brass sample library Poseidon. I wrote a demo track. This is the walkthrough. Let's go. So first let me play you the full track and then we head into the details. So before we hop into the details, I wanted to let you know that members of my Audio Artist Rise program get this entire Cubase session file for free. And now let's go. Okay, let me walk you through the patches that I've used here. So first one is Areia, and it's an octave patch of the double basses and the cello. It's a sustained patch and it sounds like this. Next up, we have another Areia patch here, and this is the cello's spiccato patch. And next up, we have a viola legato patch playing a little bit of a run here. Now we have another legato patch here, and this is the violins 2 of Areia here. And let me play you that a little bit here. And also another line here. Violins 1 legato, also Areia. Next up, we have a little violin tremolo patch here towards the end of the first part. And last but not least, for the strings here, I have my beloved string ensemble spiccato patch from Nucleus, and it sounds like this. Now let's take a look and a listen throughout the entire strings arrangement here. Now let's get to Poseidon, to the brass. And the first patch here is a bass trombone, and I created a little bit of a combo. It's nothing special, it's just the combination of the sustained articulation and the staccatissimo articulation here. And then I created an octave patch, and it sounds like this. Pretty juicy, pretty low, pretty cool. Next up, we have a trombone patch, and I basically did the same here. Again, I combined the trombones, sustained, and the marcatos, and it sounds like this. Very cool, very warm sound. Let's get to the next patch. Again, I did the same to the trumpets here, combining the sustained and the staccatissimo. You can easily recreate this, just simply load them into the same contact instrument or the same contact instance, set the MIDI channel to Omni or the same MIDI channel basically, and then you can play this back from the same channel. It's pretty cool, it sounds like this. So I always have a combination of short and long sounds, can create crescendos, decrescendos, and so on. You get the idea. Okay, let's get to the next patch here. And this is the Azure patch or Azure patch or however you pronounce it, I'm not sure. And I did the same thing, basically sustained and marcato patch in here. This is basically the horns, but I just wanted to have a juicier arrangement because I was going all in for the epic sound. So there are also trumpets and trombones combined, and it sounds like this. And next up to support, I have the same ensemble patch, but just the marcatos, because I just wanted to put a little bit more emphasis on these short notes, and I didn't want to get the sustains in between. So sometimes I create these weird and funny combinations, spread them upon different tracks, but it just works, at least for me. And also the same for this little staccato patch here. And all combined sounds like this. Okay, next up I used one of the great sound design patches that are in Poseidon. So when you check the library here, there are the core articulations and everything. And also here in the sound design tab, you have this all-in-one sound design instrument. And to give you an idea, it's pretty deep, it's pretty complex. We could do an hour on this. I just want to play you the patch that I've used here. That's Crack in the Rock, and it sounds like this. Very cool, I have to say. And next up, I used another great patch, and As I mentioned this a million times before, I love sample libraries where you have very specific patches with a sound design focus in mind that are not typical standard articulations, because I think even having these patches is always worth alone getting a library like this. So let me just play you the slight bend sustained patch that I used towards the end here. Very cool. And as I said before, I like these unique patches. Okay, next up we have another very unique sounding sample articulation here, and that is the muted Azure Ensemble, the longest. There are different tempos here, and it sounds like this. Let me play you that other bit here too. Very cool. And now let's take a look at the entire brass arrangement here of this track. Okay, let's get to the Woodwinds here. So the first patch that I've used is Nucleus Woodwind Ensemble patch, and it's just the Staccattissimos, and it sounds like this. Next up we have another Nucleus patch here, and I did the same basically to the bassoon. It's a combination patch here, again sustained staccattissimos, and it sounds like this. So I basically used the Woodwinds to support the entire epicness because I just didn't want to make it too trailer typical, but just using strings and brass. Next up, we have another Nucleus patch here, and this is the staccato flutes. And I used that to support the string runs a little bit, and it sounds like this. So you may wonder why I left these little gaps in between the notes. Simple, woodwind players have to breathe. We also have a clarinet legato patch in here that sounds like this. Let me quickly show you how it looks like. This is the one here, and it sounds like this. And also another Nucleus flute legato patch here to support this little quieter part. Very nice. Now let me play you all the woodwinds combined. Okay, next up, let's get to a library that is always an absolute pleasure to work with, my absolute to-go library when it comes to choirs. And this is by far Chorus, also by Audio Imperia. What I did here is very simple. I have a women choir and then I copied that basically to the man channel here, put it an octave down, and I'm going to play you all of the entire arrangement at once here. And I should also mention that I didn't care about the syllables, how they are used or whatever, no key switches or anything of that. I just play the notes, go, and it sounds like this. Let me just play you the patches. I honestly cannot express how much I love this choir library. Okay, let's get to the percussions, and pretty unusual for me. There's not a lot of going on with percussions here. I used Nucleus samples again here for the Gran Cassa, the Piatti, the timpanis, some timpani rolls. I also originally planned to put some additional cymbals beside the Piatti, but I ditched the idea. So let me just play that all at once for you here. Honestly, it's not more, it just goes on like this, as you can hear for the rest of the track. Okay, 3 instruments left here. I put a little bit of the Nucleus harp in this quieter part to create a little bit more of a pulse or some kind of like a tempo. So next up, I used the Legato patch from Jaeger, and this was sung by Merete Sultvedt. I think that's her name pronounced right. And yeah, it's a little neat legato patch and sounds like this. And last but not least, for some of the accents, I have the Nucleus tubular bells, and they sound like this. Okay, that's the sample libraries, the instruments, the arrangement. Let's hop over to the processing, and basically there is not a lot going on. You can see all the channels over here, and I have a little bit of stuff going on here on the bass trombone patch. This is just a trimmer, just raising the signal a little bit. And this is what I also want to quickly talk about. Usually music composers, especially when you get a new sample library, open the sample library, play a patch and say like, this patch is way softer, you know, way lower in volume than this other sample library that I'm using. The thing is, like, sometimes you have the processing or the final editing done and the library may be simply -3 or -6 dB lower. That doesn't mean that it sounds less powerful. Just raise the volume, always play around and do some kind of like gain staging or, you know, volume balance between these libraries. And then you pretty quickly find out that one library can sound very powerful as the other one. So this is basically what I did here. I also did the same for the trombone combo patch that I introduced before. Let's hop over to the Piatti channel. What I did here is a little bit of compression because I felt this patch was a little bit, let's play without. Kind of like a little bit, a lot of attack, but not really a lot of sustain. And I just compressed it to get a little bit more out of it. Hope that makes sense. The next thing I did here, we have a little bit of black hole on the harp. So let's play this pretty quickly. Let's play without. So just did that to get a little bit more of an atmospheric mood going on, because it's also that part where we used the Poseidon sound effects patch. Also, the next patch where I used a plugin is also black hole on the vocals a little bit to create a little bit more of an atmospheric mood. It sounds like this. And without, it sounds like this. And that's basically for the processing that is going on the individual tracks. The rest all happens on the buses, and I have one bus here. Let me move my head over here. One bus for the strings, one bus for the brass, for the woodwinds, the choirs, and the orchestral percussions. For the rest, I decided to put that out on the stereo out. There is a bit of processing going on for the strings, not to change the sound of the library. Nucleus sounds pretty cool, and also Areia sounds pretty cool to me, but to get this little bit of an epic thing going on, I just simply had to put some compression on top. Also, I used a little bit of fresh air, and we have a little bit of additional reverb going on. So let me just play you the strings again here, and let's bypass these plugins and see how it sounds without and with plugins activated. So that it's all turned off here. With compression. With fresh air. And with additional reverb here, 7th heaven. And we have the same going on for the brass. I just had to compress it a little bit to make it work for the entire epicness here. So we have a little bit of compression going on and also a little bit of reverb, because I just wanted to glue it all together. And it sounds like this without effects. compression turned on. And reverb on top of it. Next up, the Woodwinds, basically the same, a little bit of reverb, a little bit of compression. With compression. And with reverb. Now also a little bit of processing going on for the choirs. So first of all, we have an EQ to just get rid of all the, floor noise, low unwanted frequencies that I don't need, and a little bit of reverb on top. And it sounds like this without effects applied. With EQ. With compression. And with reverb. So next up we have a little bit of processing going on for the orchestral percussions, and this is just a little bit of gentle compression, and it sounds like this. And without effects. So it's just basically there to glue it all together a little bit. Okay, so let's take care of the mastering. So let me open these plugins one by one. First in the chain on my stereo bus here, we have the Drummer S73. It's basically a compressor. Then we have one instance of the DSM V3, which is basically a, let's say, a multiband compressor also. Then we have Neutron by Isotope. Just had a little bit of a learning process going on, giving me some, help and support with the sculptor module, the equalizer. And so it's just like not really 100% used. I also turned off the exciter, and it just helped me improving the sound. We also have Virtual Tape Machines by Slate here. Then we have another module by Slate, which is called MOTT. It's basically a further development of the original OTT plugin. Then we have the FGX2 mastering limiter. Takes a second to load, to open. And then last but not least, we have the Oxford inflator here. So what I will do right now is just playing the track from the beginning and then turning on these plugins one by one. Okay, turning on the drummer. Now the DSM. Next up, Neutron 3. Next up, the tape machine. The MOTT. Next up, we have the FGX2 mastering limiter. And the Oxford inflator. So as I've mentioned during the video, I like the tone, I like the sound of Poseidon, I like the individual patches, the sound design engine, the creative approach that everything leans a little bit more towards the sea, towards Poseidon, towards movement. Honestly, I would have loved to see a legato patch for the individual sections, but then again, I also have to say that legato is most of the time overrated. Also make sure to give the Audio Imperia website a visit and check out other in-depth tutorials about Poseidon. So that's it for this video. I hope you liked the track. I also hope you liked this video. I would be really happy if you leave me a like or even subscribe to my channel. Let's see when we can hit the 20,000 subscribers here on this channel. I'm also happy to be back. And as I mentioned before in the beginning, if you are a member of my Audio Artist Rise program, you get access to the Cubase session file for free. If you are interested in my program, check out the link in the video description. I'm especially happy that inside this program, I can be there for you 4 times a week for 90 minutes each. We will have live calls. We can talk about anything that you struggle with, anything that you want to get solved, no matter if it's a music question, if it's track feedback, if it's strategies on how to get into the video game industry or any other industry. I'm there for you guys. But for now, thanks again for checking out this video and talk soon.